right, guys. So this will be our unit following public policy, which is the one that I just recorded last week. So, if you guys end up taking the end of course exam, this will be, I don't know, it'll count for a couple of the questions on the test, but really won't be all that extensive. But thought we should still brush on it. State still requires that we cover it, so I want you guys to know what's going on. So, if you couldn't tell from the title, Ohio's had two constitutions, one written in 1803 and then one written in 1851. So we're going to take a look at those today. So, why does Ohio even need its own constitution when we consider the fact that the United States has a constitution? And the answer is pretty simple. So, using that system of federalism that we've talked about all year, we know that there's a lot of power that's relegated to the states that the federal government doesn't have, or they at least share with the states. And each individual state needs its own laws to govern the citizens residing in its borders. So nothing can go against the U.S. Constitution, but the state constitutions can complement it. They still have to follow the same theme of, personal freedoms and like a government for the people, by the people, not a government that is controlling people. So why did Ohio need two? So if we're thinking about the 1803 Constitution, we can most closely compare it to the Articles of Confederation. So it misplaced government authority just like the Articles and didn't allow for efficient government function. The 1851 Constitution fixed those problems, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So what were the problems with the 1803 Constitution? The General Assembly, which is our word for Congress, had most of the power in the state, including appointing Supreme Court justices. So it was very partisan, which means that politics played into it way too heavily, especially when you consider the fact that you want your judicial branch to be apolitical. The governor was elected but had little power, just like under the Articles. And this one was a big one. The Supreme Court was required to meet once per year in each Ohio county. So that's over 80 stops that Supreme Court justices had to make each year to settle disputes. And over the course of all this, the state accumulated just tons of debt. And there was no sign in the early 1800s that the state would stop accumulating so much debt. So, what improvements did the 1851 Constitution make? Well, one, all judges are now elected by the people, which is something that we still see today. District courts were added to aid the caseload. So instead of waiting for the Supreme Court to roll around to settle an appellate decision, you would go to like Cincinnati to have a district court fix the problem. Poll taxes were banned. And really the only reason why we put that in here is that the state of Ohio was way ahead of their time. So remember, the poll taxes were banned under the 24th Amendment, but that was way later than 1851. So Ohio was kind of leading the curve there. There were now new debt limitations, meaning that the government could only borrow so much money before they had to stop. And the 1851 Constitution required taxes to be used only for their stated purpose. So what was happening before 1851 is that someone would say, hey, we're going to tax you and we're going to take that money and put it towards schools. And then they would do something completely different with it. And people got really mad about that. So they made sure to write into the Constitution that if you said that you're going to tax something for schools or roads or whatever, that you had to use it for schools or roads or whatever else you were building. Three branches of the Ohio government. The Ohio General Assembly is the legislative branch. The executive branch is headed up by the governor and lieutenant governor. And then you have the Ohio Supreme Court as the head of the judicial branch. Actually, we're going to stop here, and this is going to be a good place to leave off for number 2. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Part 2 coming soon. Hey, all right. Look for this on Edpuzzle as well. And make sure you're paying attention to Google Classroom. Thanks, guys.